This is the pre-production diary for the Knock Knock podcast. My name is Jason B. Jones. Diary entry 06. After last week's diary entry, I posted an image on the Knock Knock social feed inviting you to call in and ask any questions you've had so far. The goal of these pre-production episodes is to provide complete transparency into the real-time creation of this podcast. The wins, the challenges, everything. And I was so excited that some of you called in and asked some great questions. That's what this community that we're building together is all about. Asking questions and finding answers. So, here we go.
Hi, this is Abby, and I am wondering about how you're funding and doing the podcast now that you're not doing the GoFundMe. When I saw the GoFundMe wasn't happening, I thought the podcast wasn't happening. So, just found out that it is. So, how are you keeping it going now? Thanks.
That's a great question. Let me just break it down. So, on Memorial Day, we launched the website, the video trailer, and the GoFundMe all at the same time. And pretty quickly, I started to get some negative and hurtful comments from family members saying that I was trying to make money off of this tragedy. And, as I've thought about it, I think that some of that backlash was my fault for not doing a better job of explaining where this money would go and why we needed it. So let me lay it out. We've spent around $4,600 so far on things like audio and video equipment or travel expenses, various services like Squarespace to host the website or Libsyn to host the podcast, Grasshopper to provide our voicemail service. And the GoFundMe was also to help pay for the audio producer that we hired and the video director we hired, the social media coordinator and the lawyer. But what's been really amazing is that all of these people have really stepped up, like right now, and are graciously giving me their time for free. But eventually, I would love to compensate them for their time. I also have dreams. I want to pay for more extensive research, travel to visit various experts to interview, and continue to increase the quality of our production. We've also, we've had sponsors that have reached out to us, and that's a typical way that podcasts raise money through advertising within the show. And we're looking for the right people to partner with. But for right now, we probably won't relaunch the GoFundMe. It's not worth it. But if anyone's listening that would love to give, if you go to knockknockpodcast.com, there's a form on there. If you fill it out and want to send me a message, we can certainly figure that out. And that would be amazing. That'd be really gracious. But I just want to make this note, and I want to make it really clear, is that none of this money goes to me. It will always go 100% back into the effort to help find justice for Betty and Catherine. So until we run out of resources or favors, we'll continue to go on. Thanks so much for your question.
Hey, Jason, what's up, man? This is Bill from Houston, and man, I'm a huge fan of what you're trying to do with this project, and man, I've got nothing but respect for it. And I had a question, man. I'm just curious if you can tell me a little more about how you're doing your research. I mean, this is such an old case, and there's so many years to cover, so much geography to cover, and different things to look into. Like, how did you put together a plan to research this so you can actually get somewhere? It seems like there could be just such a huge amount of information. Would love to hear more about what that process has looked like for you. Man, appreciate what you're doing. Keep up the good work, man.
Yeah, for sure. Doing research has been super challenging. I learned early on that there wasn't much online that talked about the murder or the investigation or anything. I knew that I was going to have to do manual digging into old periodicals. And so it's crazy, but I just found the local Craigslist to Starkville. And I just posted. I said, hey, I need someone to dig into some old newspapers there locally. I'm in Nashville, Tennessee, and I'd be willing to pay for finding some information. And there was a guy named Ben, and he reached back out to me, and he said, I work in a library, and I would love to dig some of this stuff up for you. And the amount of stuff that he was able to find and how much I was able to learn from those newspapers that had come out days after the crime has been a huge help for me. It's just awesome. I also went and spent an afternoon riding around with Sergeant Bill Lott of the Starkville Police Department, and he was super helpful. I mean, he just gave me all of this information, this knowledge. He's just, in his free time, continuing to pursue answers around this case. And I'm hoping that what we're going to do is going to complement the amazing work that he's doing. I also, I used a service called Fancy Hands. It's a per task online admin service. So you sign up for some tasks and you pretty much say, hey, I need you to call this television station to ask them to pull something from their archives and chase them down to do that. And they'll, online, it pretty much shows you, hey, I called and I tried, I left a message. I was able to get them and they're going to call me back. This is how much it's going to cost to be able to get a screener. And then what address should I send it to? And then they complete the task. It's unbelievable. And so now I'm at the point where I'm looking for researchers and writers to come alongside me to not only find new info, but I have so much now. So really rendering it down into a cohesive narrative that I can then share with you guys that are listening. That's the challenge right now, and that's what I'm living in. So I would encourage, if there's anybody out there that would like to come alongside and help, and you happen to be in the Nashville area or anywhere, that's what I'm looking for right now. Hope that answers your question.
Hey, Jason, Vinny Alibrandi calling you from Nashville, Tennessee. Just curious about how you approach the justice system and how you want to bring this to justice. Do you find that there are elements that come into your strategy that involve things like forgiveness, mercy, and this being a cold and a warm case for you? What's your strategy with that, and what are you finding? Also, on the tech side, I'm an audio guy, so I'm really curious. You having a mobile rig, that's really challenging. What do you use for capturing audio and dealing with all the noises, wind noise, air conditioning noise, etc.? And do you have any solutions in post that you use, any magic tricks or plugins? So sort of curious about that. Anyway, I think you're doing a great thing. I know you're going to get support. I hope you get exactly what you need, if not more, so that we can help this cause and help bring this to justice. But it's just really intriguing listening to your show. Keep it up, man.
Yeah, I mean, for sure. It's hard to not harbor anger as I learn more. And when I interview people, you can tell that they're still very, very angry. I've grown really close to the Krigler family through this process, and one of the first things that Julia told me when I kind of told her what I was going to do was, I think it was something like, "Man, I really want to catch that SOB." And I thought that was both funny in her delivery, but you could just tell that that's like it's very real and intense to everyone, which makes it hard, because when you're telling a story that brings up an emotion like pain or anger or rage, sometimes people want to avoid that. They want to avoid those feelings, and that's such a tight line to walk on. And it's for me too. I get that. I get that as well. But I can only speak for myself. But when I think about the guy who did this to Betty and Catherine, I'm mostly filled with sadness. What set of events in this guy's life led him to a place of rape and murder? I also wonder how many other children and grandchildren, nieces and nephews are all sitting in living rooms wondering what happened to their loved ones. Because I'm confident that this was not this guy's first crime. And can we as a community assist law enforcement in finding justice for them too? Like, how amazing would that be? I want to forgive him. I do. But I also want this person to be held accountable for his crimes. Now, on to gear. I'm really excited because this is the first episode where I'm using my professional studio mic. I record these in my home office, and I just got a Shure SM7B, just like the big boys, attached to a Rode PSA-1, going into a cloud lifter, and then an audio box USB for my digital interface. And I'm just running this on GarageBand. I have it set to male radio noisy, which is one of the filters on there under, it might be under podcast. It's like a specific podcast setting. And, I tweaked the denoise and the enhance a little bit just to kind of dial it in. I'm kind of shoot from the hip. I've got audio guys that are probably cringing as I'm talking through all this, but the mobile rig was my first one, and I sort of built it as I went. It was two RE50 EV mics on a Zoom H4n Pro, just a little mobile audio recorder, a couple of pair of headphones, and I've been sending those files off to my audio producer, who is a wizard, and he's making them sound good, although I am probably butchering the recording. So I'm sure he's happy that I'm trying to do everything I can to step up the audio game. So I hope that answers your questions. I think I could go on all day about gear and my setup, but maybe I'll leave that for a separate episode.
Hey, Jason, this is Brad from Thompson Station, Tennessee. Really love what you're trying to do. And I was just wondering if you can tell me more about how you get the word out and build a community for a new podcast. Also, I was wondering, what difficulties have you run into trying to brand and market a podcast that revolves around such a sensitive subject? Keep up the good work, man. I can't wait for full episodes to come out. Thanks.
Although it wasn't my intention or plan from the beginning, these pre-production diary entries have really been a good jumpstart to building that community that I'm looking for. Social media has played a huge part, and I think it's regularly interacting with people there and posting regular content really helps. But also next week, I'm going to be interviewing my brother, Simon Jones, who is going to help from a communications perspective. It was super important to me that we would have a family member helping me respond to people on socials and investing in this community that we're building. This affected him as well, and I think that he has a unique voice that he could bring to it. And so when we get started with the real episodes, the plan is to have a new episode every 2 weeks. And in the off weeks, Simon's going to join me for a question and comments episode. This podcast is meant to be interactive. So the only way we're really going to make progress is if this is a conversation, not merely entertainment, something to listen to, on your drive home. It has to be something where we're involved. And as I mentioned at the end of every pre-production episode, we have a website and Facebook and Twitter and Instagram. We have all of those platforms are secured. But when we launch, we're gonna launch with a message board. So it's not just me talking to you and you talking back to me. It's hopefully you guys talking to each other and coming up with new thoughts and new ideas. That's what's really exciting about the podcast medium, is that you can really mediate a powerful community. As far as branding's concerned, I think it's just really trying to stay consistent and making sure that our message doesn't deviate, that it always focuses on telling Betty and Catherine's story, building a community around that story, and finding justice. And if all of our imaging and website and audio, if all of it points collectively to that in everything that we do, and as a team, we're always looking at it and making sure that it meets that bar, then I think we're doing a good thing.
Hi, Jason. My name is Dennis. I'm from Phoenix, and having lost family members in my own life and having so many questions about their past and even parts of my past, I wonder how you are able to tackle such a deep and old case subject like this and still be objective. What you're doing is so cool. I can't even, it's hard to put into words how much respect I have for you, being somebody who has asked so many questions about my own family past and things that I just don't understand. So keep up the good work. I'd hope that you find all the answers that you're looking for. Best of luck to you.
Yeah, I mean, the short answer is it's really hard. Just to be honest, it's super hard. I think that's the inherent benefit to podcasters or documentarians or storytellers in general who take on subject matter that they are personally attached to. You know, I find myself in interviews getting pretty emotional because I remember what my childhood was like. I remember how painful this murder was on my family and the people around me. So, you know, when I got started, I knew that it was super important for me to have a team of people around me that this was merely a story to them. I wouldn't say just a story. That sounds calloused, but that it was a story. It wasn't so real. It wasn't so raw. And I've got that. And I they're really good about separating what is just emotion and what is actually important to the telling of this story and the communications of bringing this to an audience. So, my goal is to make this podcast mostly about other people's stories and testimonies and information, and less about me and my opinions. I just hope to be a mediator in a conversation with the community that we're trying to build, and really try to fade into the background as much as I can. I think that if I can do that effectively, coupled with the buffer of a team that's around me, I think that objectivity will be built into the process. So I'm really conscious of it, and like I said, it's really hard. Huge thanks to everyone that called in with questions. You can call our voicemail anytime at 1-888-57-BETTY. That's 1-888-572-3889. I would love to hear your thoughts, questions, advice, whatever. Special thanks to the Knock Knock team, Chris and Lacey from Swell Story Media, Rebecca Jones, Jason Adams, Simon Jones, Cole Flynn, and Colleen Jones. You guys blow me away. A million thanks for all that you do. Be sure and connect with me on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at Knock Knock Pod. There you can ask me questions, leave your comments, or just say hi. Also, make sure and share our website, knockknockpodcast.com, with your friends and family. Full episodes will launch in September, and we'll be back soon with a new pre-production diary entry. Thanks again for subscribing to the Knock Knock Podcast.